Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. We're continuing our reading of the Fatwas of Imam al Albani, Sheikh al Albani, and it has taught us quite a lot actually, and it provides us with a lot of ayats of the Quran as evidences. So let's continue. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Question: is it divinely legislated for a woman to be a judge? Ooh, spicy. Answer: a woman may not be a judge. Being a judge does not only mean applying the divine legislation. It is more than that. A mufti, one who gives religious verdicts, is not necessarily a judge, and a judge is not necessarily a mufti. These two characteristics, however, may exist in the same person. A judge is obliged to execute religious verdicts that are passed, just like the governor, unlike the mufti who does not enjoy any executive authority. This is narrated in Sahih Bukhari from Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated that those who are led by a woman will not gain prosperity. Asla number 17, Q1, page 70, 1416 Hijrah. Okay, so Prophet peace be upon him can't be led by a woman. So what I'm getting here is that a judge, they do more than just apply legislation. But then there's the case of the mufti, gives religious verdicts. And then a judge. So essentially, I think religious verdicts that are passed, executing religious verdicts that are passed. Just like a governor. Okay. So, since he contends a judge executes religious verdicts, they're governing essentially the society, and that means they cannot allow a woman to be part of that, because then she would be violating the hadith that is mentioned in Bukhari. Okay. Question: do you think joining political parties today is an innovation in religion, or forbidden, haram? Is your criticism to do with their misapplication of objectives? Answer: no. Working within parties is no doubt something recommended, provided that they do not lead to fanaticism. Many Quranic verses affirm this, such as, quote, and be with those are true in words and deeds. At-Tawbah 9:119. And urge not one another on the feeding of al-Masakin, the poor. Al-Fajr 90:18. And help one another in birr and taqwa, virtue, righteousness, and piety. Al-Maida 5:2. They kind of cut off the quote here. And urge not one another on the feeding of al-Masakin, the poor. I feel like, for some reason, I feel like it should say, urge one another to feed the poor. Or it's like the one that's like mentioning, don't be with those who discourage you from feeding the poor. There's been a couple typos in here, so I'm just making sure. And it says, and be with those are true in words and deeds. I think it would be, and be with those who are true in words and deeds. Those who are. I think they didn't insert the word who here, but they do provide the Arabic on top. I don't know, maybe a couple typos, because there's been a couple of those, I'm not sure. Such cooperation is surely recommended, because cooperation is an established and a firm characteristic of Islam. Okay, so cooperation is a characteristic of Islam. But this kind of work nowadays gets damaged by the tendency towards fanaticism and part spirit, to the extent that many of those who call unto Allah become familiar with it and join a certain party just for its name. Okay, so watch out for fanaticism. This is even though many of the Quranic verses forbid the establishment of such parties that have its own systems and course of conducting, many of which contradicts the rules of the Sunnah, which is exactly that which many of the Prophet's ahadith warned against generally and explicitly, and their meanings are tantamount to Allah's verse, quote, "And do not be of those who associate others with Allah, or those who have divided their religion and become sects, every faction rejoicing in what it has." Rum 30, 31, 32. The numerous Islamic sects of today are so widespread that any Muslim can see their diverse objectives, systems, and hatred to each other, each of which has its own director, supporters, and course of working that never meet that of the other parties or sects, the things which contradicts the main objective of working within assemblies and societies. To conclude, working within societies or assemblies for the very objective of benefiting Islam in the same manner that was done at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is no doubt something recommended. So, assemblies and societies cooperating to make things beneficial for Islam. It is the main source of strength for Muslims to re-establish their Muslim communities, provided that the objectives of these sect societies or assemblies is to call unto Allah in the way described in the Quran, the Messenger's Sunnah, and the way of the righteous predecessors, and not for the benefit of certain people or political and partisan parties. Alright. So, participating in different assemblies and societies for the authentic aid of Islam. Let's be authentic, right? So, the way you would measure that is if it's based on the Quran and Sunnah. And the way of the righteous predecessors, it isn't just supposed to benefit certain people or a partisan political issue. Question: to what extent one could concern himself with contemporary politics? Answer: if the main objective of politics is leading a nation, managing its affairs, maintaining its religion and properties, then this is the function of the Muslim state as a whole, i.e., a collective duty done by a group of people who are granted authority by the leader, not the function of individuals who are not authorized and can never gain benefit for nor harm the nation. Granted authority, not authorized. Okay, well, the people do maintain the religion, right? A government can lecture people to be religious, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the people who decide if they're actually going to obey. Okay? If you look at, I don't know why this keeps sliding down. Pardon me, I keep fidgeting with it. I think I might have twisted it. But it's the people who decide what happens to a nation, I'd argue. If China, like for example, they're suppressing religion really hard. They rewrote the Bible. Look that up. They're persecuting Muslims, they want to have an atheistic, communistic society. If the people, though, still have religion in their heart, the government didn't have really a say, you know? Now, if you look at how many countries are leaving religion, but the people still hold on to it, and they want their leaders to, you do see that the people can add to the functioning of the nation. Government tries but fails so often to do anything right. It's the people who can harm a country or give it benefit, not the government. Although the government does matter, right? But giant bureaucracies or failed states, they can only do so much. As for gathering information for the purposes of understanding areas of weakness, and then consequently trying to avoid them, then as we always say, purification first, and then education. And purifying Islam of evil things that are being forcefully stuffed into it, and the attempt to educate Muslims their pure religion, knowing all these general affairs, is something inevitable. One of the great Arab poets said, "I learned evil, not for evil's sake, but so as to avoid it. If one does not know evil from good, will fall into it." It's a very good point. So, you want to learn politics to identify the areas of weakness, and then how you can avoid that, create a solution, right? Politics, yes, is to lead a nation. The politicians can control trade deals, taxes, stuff like that. But the on-the-ground culture matters a lot. It's like a battle between the top and the bottom, which has always been that way. What the society, like how North Korea pumps brainwashing stuff in, right? They really just focus on the people, but then you have the people in other nations, having their views put into the culture, and then electing people who are going to represent their values on a local level instead of a globalistic level. In my opinion, these two lines of poetry stem from the prophetic hadith, which was narrated in the two Sahih of al-Bukhari, and Muslim from Hudayfa bin al-Yaman radiallahu anhu, having said, people used to ask Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the ways of goodness, and I used to ask him about evil acts, lest I fall in them. So, getting to know areas of weakness among Muslims with the aim to lead them to strength, knowledge, and sovereignty is enjoined duty on them. One may, however, concern himself in getting to know all details about the disbelievers' battles, activities, or policies, for knowing such things is better than being ignorant. Yet one should do what the Prophet ﷺ did, and he used to occupy himself with teaching Muslims rules of prayer and educating them Allah's commands more than concerning himself with his enemies and their activities. Okay, so I'm seeing here, don't forget about essentially teaching Islam, but you can study your enemies and their ways so that you can lead the Muslim Ummah to strength, and knowledge helps you become stronger and helps the Muslims become more sovereign and fortified, right? So studying about the disbelievers' battles and activities and policies can help you to be less ignorant. So, for example, like the art of war, battles of history, different weapons and different sabotage propaganda campaigns, right? But to push out everything that is around the deen, around the faith, would be wrong, right? So I'm getting here that balance. So you can concern yourself with it, but know your scale, have the right intentions. Sounds like, something I would agree with in terms of, like, you're trying to find the weaknesses, helping people to avoid it. Like, somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's going to study this, someone's going to study that. But no matter what, we have to make sure we don't become off kilter, right? Marriage and offspring. Question: what is the ruling regarding birth control? Answer: the one who limits the number of his family without any divinely legislated cause, I think he is at least a fool, if not a disbeliever in the divine decree. So, divine decree. Has he who limits the number of his children to, say, 3, not thought what would happen to him if he loses them? Those who limit the number of their children do not think in the way every Muslim should think, that is, to believe that the divine decree controls humans as the Lord wishes, not vice versa. This birth limitation is total ignorance and prohibited. Ooh, cool. Okay, even further. By extension, does this also apply clearly to male birth control, such as vasectomies? Because we have a lot of ignorant red pill people pushing vasectomies. I've documented that on my blog. I've posted about that on the community tab. Pearl Davis, Troy Francis, Rollo Tomasi, Myron Gaines even pushed it. Andrew Tate came out and mocked it, called it gay. So we do see that discussion being had, right? I do think it's important for women to get off birth control, and I find it interesting because it's mentioning here divine legislation, divine decree, and that a Muslim should think that the divine decree is what controls humans and not humans who control the divine decree. So if you're purposely limiting it with birth control, he contends that is prohibited. MashaAllah. Very educational. This book has had like a lot of contemporary issues in it, like things that you wonder about. So prohibited. And a lot of girls just get put on birth control to deal with their acne, but it's really just eugenics. It's depopulation. Even when I was pregnant, I would go to the doctor and they literally asked me when I was 6 months if I wanted to be sterilized. I mean, it's very evil. Every visit, pushing birth control. When I'm in the hospital, recovering from the C-section, do you want to be on birth control? It's like insane how badly they just hate people having children. It's disgusting. I think we should be thankful for fertility and accepting. And then you have the whole business of getting women pregnant in their 40s. It doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. They push birth control on you from 16 to 30, but then from 30 to 40, they want you to give them money to get pregnant. I don't know, whatever. Let me know what you think. If you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/Milahan. Hope to see you there.